How's it going, everyone? It's Harvey from Weather Sponge 5000 today. It's August 11, 2021, and today we're going to be focusing on Tropical Storm Fred, which is expected to impact the United States and the Caribbean this week, and we could see heavy rain, gusty wind, and very strong surf. And we'll also take a look at this next potential tropical cyclone that may form in the main development region as it heads westward into the Caribbean. But before I begin, make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. So let's begin by taking a look at the 5-day tropical weather outlook provided from the National Hurricane Center. And of course, we do see Tropical Storm Fred, which has made landfall near Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. It currently has maximum sustained winds of 40 miles per hour, a minimum central pressure down to 1,007 millibars, and is moving west-northwest at 15 miles per hour, which is about an average speed for a tropical cyclone. And of course, we also have this next potential disturbance, which is currently dubbed Invest 95L, which does now have a medium chance of development, but only a 30% chance within the next 48 hours. However, it does increase beyond the 48-hour mark, where there is a 50% chance of tropical cyclone formation. But first, let's talk about the tropical cyclone that's closer to home, which is Tropical Storm Fred. Now, taking a look at the water vapor imagery for Tropical Storm Fred, you do see that we aren't seeing a ton of convection with this storm as we were before when it was just to the southeast of Puerto Rico, but now it has made landfall and we're seeing a lot of that convection over Dominican Republic and Haiti at this time. However, currently the center of circulation is currently displaced from all this convection, so as a result, it's going to be very difficult over the next several days for this to really gradually intensify until that convection eventually wraps around the center of circulation, because the center of circulation requires convection for the air pressure surrounding it to be low enough to increase the maximum wind speed throughout in the center of circulation. And when we're seeing that convection displace, it kind of takes away a lot of the energy and pretty much the lower air pressure away from the center of circulation, and that makes it a weaker storm when it comes to max wind speed overall. But we are still seeing convection on the southern side of the storm, right around Dominican Republic and Haiti at this time, and it's bringing heavy rain in those regions, so watch out for potential mudslides in the higher elevations in Dominican Republic and Haiti, as that could definitely be an issue, as well as regular flash flooding could be an issue as well embedded in these thunderstorms. But you see, we have a lot of dry air on the northern side of this storm, as it's really losing a lot of its moisture, going over the very high elevations of Hispaniola, and that's really the condensation that's forced to occur as a result of the high mountainous terrain is much more rapid than the evaporation that's occurring, because of course the center circulation is out of the ocean. However, this is expected to eventually move to the northwest of Hispaniola, and it's going to be very interesting to see where exactly this goes, because if it moves a little bit more northward than expected, the center circulation could entirely miss the land of the mainland of Cuba, which would mean that this storm would have a better chance of gradually intensifying. However, if it moves further south than expected, then this storm will really struggle to really develop over the next several days, not until maybe it comes off the coast of Cuba sometime, I'd say right around Saturday, where we will see it eventually approach Florida by around that time frame and go over open water once again. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like strengthening in the near future is expected, and if there is, it will be slow strengthening, as its best chance of development is once it comes off the coast of Cuba and heads around the Florida vicinity right around the Saturday time frame. Now, taking a look at what the GFS model is stating, first, we're going to forecast what type of strength you should expect based off of all the factors, and then we're going to take a look at what factors will determine the track of this, and what could change the track of this as it heads further northwestward. So if we were to take a look at the GFS model, you see this where is where Tropical Storm Fred is located right now. Just a small area of moisture, a small envelope of moisture in the mid levels of the atmosphere. However, we do see an abundance of dry air to the eastern side of this, and that's helping the western side of the storm stay relatively dry for the most part, as that's expected to continue over the next several days, because you see the dry air on the western side of the storm is going to stay there for a long time. And the good news is, compared to yesterday's run, the GFS now is more lenient on bringing the dry air on the western side of this storm, which would mean that this will be a weaker storm as it approaches the United States, which is certainly good news that the GFS model is expecting just enough dry air to entrain the storm, because you see right around the Sunday time frame, August 15th, we do see a lot of dry air on the western side of this storm, and that should inhibit this storm from not only gradually intensifying, but potentially rapidly intensifying as it heads into the Gulf of Mexico, which is certainly good news that the dry air is expected to linger around the western side of the storm more than originally expected from the last model run. So the max intensity should be kept at a limit as a result of this dry air. This forecast is right around Florida. It's around 3 to 4 days out, so there's still things that could change over the next several days when it comes to the forecast. However, it seems it'll be key to see how much dry air will be located. However, it seems like there's gonna be just enough dry air to prevent this storm from rapidly intensifying. The key is how much exactly, because if there isn't as much dry air as expected, then we could see maybe this gradually intensifies into a hurricane. However, the current forecast and the current consensus from the GFS model is that this should remain mainly a mid-level to potentially a strong tropical storm at worst. So that should definitely put a limit on the storm's intensity. And you see even later during the run, this dry air completely entrains the southern and western side of this storm. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out over the next several days. Taking a look at the wind shear this storm might encounter as it heads further northwestward. The good news is that now the GFS model is also more lenient on bringing a little bit more wind shear than initially anticipated over this storm, as if we were to take a look at the current wind shear map, we do see an upper level low located over Florida that's bringing relatively light wind shear over the Bahamas and southern Florida at this point, and a little bit of wind shear over Cuba as well. But if we were to move forward, you see that this upper level low is expected to linger over Florida a little bit more longer than anticipated, because originally the GFS model was lenient on bringing this upper level low further northeastward rather than linger over the same area. And based off of that, the GFS model was forecasting a little bit more of a stronger storm in the Gulf of Mexico. But you see that headed into around August 14th, Saturday, you see the upper level low still lingers in this area, and we see a little bit more wind shear than usual over Florida at this point. And while it isn't strong wind shear, I could even argue it's going to be light wind shear. It's more wind shear than initially anticipated. So not only will the upper level winds create the stronger upper level winds will create stronger wind shear and a bigger, more drastic change in wind direction and wind speed with height, but it'll also entrain more dry air into the center circulation, which will inhibit this storm from gradually intensifying as much as initially anticipated. So if we were to take a look at moving forward, you see that the wind shear is expected to linger over as a result of this upper level low located in the southeast, and that should bring more dry air in the center circulation. And eventually we do expect another upper level low and another trough to move through the Midwest in the Midwest region of the United States and bring a little bit more wind shear just before it makes landfall, and that should bring a lot of the drier air that's further westward into center circulation. So that could definitely inhibit its development, because you see right around the landfall point, we do see more wind shear as a result of a trough moving through and an upper level low located right around Texas. So there's still uncertainty regarding the forecast this far out, because I'm going close to 6 days out. There's still a lot of questions that remain, whether or not how far or how strong this wind shear will be headed into the southeast, and where this upper level low will be located in Texas. However, it seems like the current forecast is that we will see the storm weaken as a result of stronger wind shear and stronger dry air. But again, there is that possibility that maybe this upper level low moves further northward, or this upper level low that's located right around the Texas region moves a little slower. So this storm could still experience an area where the wind shear will be lighter than expected, or at least relatively light. However, at this point, it seems like now the GFS model is predicting more moderate wind shear over the storms, which should inhibit development and potentially limit development from this becoming a hurricane. But again, there's still that possibility the wind shear could be lighter. But taking a look again at what the European model is saying, now the European model is also taking a slightly weaker storm than initially anticipated. And what's interesting is that now it's taking both computer models are taking a track a little bit more eastward, as it seems like both the European and the GFS model are expecting this trough that's going to move through the United States to move a little bit faster, which should pull this storm northward more quickly. And that should mean that it'll be more of a Florida threat than, let's say, Alabama, Mississippi, or even Louisiana threat, since the storm would be further eastward. There's still uncertainty regarding the forecast because, again, I'm going 4 to 5 days out, so we still could see drastic changes in the forecast where maybe the storm goes much closer to Mobile, Alabama, or closer to New Orleans, or we could see an even more drastic track where this tracks along the east coast of Florida. There's still a lot of uncertainty, and remember, only 2/3 of the time the tropical cyclone stays within the cone, so there's still there's still a 33% chance that this storm doesn't even stay within the current forecast cone. So, which is still a low chance, but it's still pretty high, relatively speaking, when it comes to the forecast cone. So there's certainly a lot we need to watch over the next several days when this trough will move through, because if this trough moving through the United States moves a little bit slower, then it's more likely we're going to see the storm move further westward into Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama. However, if it moves faster, then we should expect a more eastward track where it impacts more Florida and maybe Georgia, and who knows, maybe even the Carolinas could get involved a little bit more. So there's still a lot of uncertainty, but I'll make sure to update you guys over the next several days regarding that forecast. Now, taking a look at the current model intensity guidance from all the ensemble members, you see that most of these are forecasting this to re-strengthen into a tropical storm, but not one of these are currently expecting this to attain Category 1 hurricane status. Now, take it with a grain of salt, because I noticed the ensemble members tend to underestimate storm strength typically, so there is still that possibility, if the conditions play out correctly, that this could maybe strengthen into a Category 1 once this heads into the Gulf of Mexico. However, the more likely scenario at this point is that this remains tropical storm status. But again, there's still a lot of uncertainty because once this reaches the Gulf of Mexico, we're talking about a forecast that's 3 to 5 days out. So there's still a lot that could change between 3 to 5 days regarding the forecast. So I'll make sure to update you guys and to not make assumptions too quickly regarding the forecast. But the current consensus is that this will re-strengthen into a tropical storm, and currently this won't reach Category 1 status. So now taking a look at the rainfall forecast, because this could be a big issue for a lot of southeast, whether this is tropical storm threat or hurricane threat. You see that over 5 inches of rain is expected in some areas right around Miami, southern Florida especially, and we even see that heavy rain extend northward into northern Florida, as this should be definitely a pretty big concern for you guys, as talking about 5 inches of rain, you shouldn't take 5 inches of rain lightly at all, as that could cause a lot of flash flooding. Make sure to make sure you know what to do during a flood. If you see water, turn around, don't drown, because typically the water you see is a lot deeper than you initially expect. Now, taking a look at the current forecasted projected path provided from the National Hurricane Center, you see that tropical storm warnings are still issued for Dominican Republic, and we have tropical storm watches issued for Cuba, Haiti, and even the Bahamas, as there is a chance of tropical storm status, even though the National Hurricane Center is expecting this to weaken into a tropical depression relatively soon as it heads over the high terrain of Dominican Republic and Haiti. But you see that projected path. We do see that storm move northward. And look at how big the cone is. Pretty much it extends as far west as Biloxi, Mississippi, and as far east as nearly as Jacksonville, Florida. So there's still a pretty big uncertainty of where this exactly will go, because any small differences in the forecast can make a big difference in terms of what you experience. So make sure to stay tuned to your local forecast, because exactly where this goes is subject to change over the next several days. But it seems likely at this point the United States will experience impacts somewhere in the southeast. Exactly where remains to be the question, but should primarily focus on Florida, maybe Alabama and Mississippi as well. As I think it's pretty much unlikely this will move all the way west towards, let's say, Louisiana or Texas at this point, as primarily the eastern half of the southeast coast should at least be in the threat of impacts from Tropical Storm Fred. Now, taking a look at my projected forecast when it comes to strength and where exactly this will go, keep in mind this is based on my speculation. To seek info, seek pretty much official guidance from the National Hurricane Center, and you see that I'm expecting this pretty much kind of mimic the National Hurricane Center, but I do expect it to maybe peak around 65 miles per hour Sunday afternoon, which is borderline a hurricane. So there is still a chance that this could attain Category 1 status, but currently I do expect a strong tropical storm to enter the right around the Florida area headed into this weekend. And you see that we also have another threat to worry about, which might be potential tropical storm Grace, which could head into the Caribbean into next week. So now let's take a look at that. You're gonna see this Invest 95L, which may become tropical storm Grace, and we do see a little bit convection on the southeastern side of the storm. We do see just a little bit convection on the northwestern side as well, but we do see a lot of dry air for the most part, as there isn't really a well-defined center of circulation just yet. I'd say, if I were to give a guess, I'd say center of circulation is right here, but it's embedded in a lot of dry air, and a lot of convection is displaced from the center of circulation, so which is the reason why it isn't really developing yet. And currently it's dealing with a lot of wind shear, a decent amount of wind shear at this point. It's of course moving quite fast, which will definitely inhibit its development in the near future. However, the chance does increase once the storm slows down and moves over slightly warmer waters into the slightly warmer waters of the Caribbean. Take a look at the model intensity guidance when it comes to its strength. It is a little concerning because we do see more than half of the computer models attaining this a Category 1 status right around the 4 to 5 day mark, and even 1 or 2 borderline at Category 2 status. But again, like, we're forecasting this right around 4 to 5 days out, so take it with a grain of salt. And again, the SAL members are always the most accurate representation of what is to come, so take it with a grain of salt. But it is worrying that the ensemble members are taking a pretty high peak with this storm this early before it even developed into a tropical storm, and we only still have a medium chance of development. Now taking a look at what the GFS model is saying regarding the storm. The good news is that the GFS model isn't really developing anything, and I'd put more emphasis on the main GFS model than the ensemble members. So at this point, it's definitely good news that GFS model isn't developing anything. Taking a look at what the European model wants to do, we do see just enough vorticity to consider this a tropical storm just to the east of Puerto Rico, which is definitely a concern. And then you see it moves in the northwest of Dominican Republic. And taking a look at the let me go full screen here again. And you see right around the Bahamas, we do see that the storm maintains its vorticity. I wouldn't say it's extremely strong vorticity, but it's definitely enough to at least consider it a tropical storm status headed into the Caribbean, as this could affect the islands once again after getting impacted by Tropical Storm Fred. So this is definitely something we need to keep a close eye on throughout the Caribbean over the next several days. So make sure to at least be aware of that in the Caribbean. Make sure throughout the southeast, at least be aware of Tropical Storm Fred. And in Florida, I'd say it's safe enough to prepare, especially if you're in a flood zone, because it seems likely you will experience at least some sort of heavy rain threat out of this. So make sure to stay prepared in case of a flood in Florida, as I think flooding will be the primary risk. This won't be necessarily a big wind maker, so make sure to prepare in Florida. And the Caribbean, watch out for Invest 95L, because it could become our next tropical storm. But yeah, guys, I guess that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more weather content. Make sure to like if you like this video. Make sure to turn on post notifications if you want to see even more weather content. I hope you guys have a good day.